Welcome to Videography Business Mastery. Balance, correct, grade without losing quality. Let's begin. Starting with our project settings. DaVinci YRGB Rec 709 Gamma 2.4 Tetrahedral. Make broadcast safe. 23.976 frames per second. Matched resolution. There are many ways to convert your footage. We can use a color managed workflow at the project setting level, and this will convert our footage. We will right click on our footage, go to input color space, and change the color space to match the color space that was shot, and then our footage will be converted. This is one way to convert your footage. Let's reset our project settings and try another way. Another way we can convert our footage is to right click, go down to the Trinity LUTs that are designed for Sony Log 3 and add your favorite LUT. This is the quickest and easiest way to convert your footage. Now that we've learned how to use LUTs, let's try color space transform. Change the input color space to the color space that was used while filming. In this case, Sony Log 3 with the input gamma of Sony Log 3. Change your output gamma and your output color space to Rec 709 Gamma 2.4. And our footage is now converted. The final way to convert your footage is the traditional way of adding contrast, adding color, and then adjusting your settings. Those are 4 ways to convert your footage. Which one should you use? The method I prefer is color space transform. If I need to turn around this project quickly, then I will use the LUT method. We will begin first by making all of our nodes. Let's begin by converting our footage. Click on Effects and drag the Color Space Transform effect on to the CST node, which stands for Color Space Transform. Locate the gamma that was used when filming. Change the input color space to Sony Gamma 3. Next, click on Input Gamma and scroll down until you find the corresponding gamma that was used when filming. In this case, Sony Log 3. We'll then change the output color space to Rec 709 and then the output gamma to Gamma 2.4. Now that our footage is converted, we can now begin working with the image. To save our progress, we will right click on the image, click Grab Still. That way, if we want to come back to our original node tree, we can have the node tree right here to reference. We can export this as a power grade, which is available to all students in Videography Business Mastery. Let's begin with focus. Now this is where I really enjoy using a mask to place over our subject. Invert the mask, and then make sure editable splines is turned on. Click the top right corner of the curve line, drag down a little bit on the point, and then bring this down to compress the highlights. And we'll slightly adjust and balance. We are now focusing on my sun. However, if we bring the mid-tone detail down by 15% and then include blur in the image, we are now creating artificial bokeh, softening out everything around my son's face. And if I were to use this effect, you can see what it's doing. So what we can do is track our mask using the tracker in DaVinci Resolve. Click the right and left arrow in case you are at the end or the back of the clip. As you can see, DaVinci does a great job at tracking. So now we can go back and reset, turn off our overlay, and you can see that our focus node is tracking with the face. Perfect. Now I'll reset to our hero frame and move on. The next step is to compress the highlights a tiny bit. There we go. Quick and easy. The next step is to balance the color. So I'll take my auto white balance dropper and click on the part of the image that is white. We've now properly balanced out our image. Now that we have a perfectly converted image, we can move on. I enjoy cleaning up the whites of an image, so my whites are very clean and beautiful. So the way to do that is to take your gain wheel, bring it down to about 0.9%. Then raise the luma level back to 1. You'll notice when we switch this off and on, It cleans up the whites of the image. Next is to clean up the blacks of the image. We do this by clicking on the color tab at the top, navigating down to presets, and then clicking on Chroma Dark. This is removing the color from the bottom end of the shadows. Now, sometimes this effect is very strong, so I will leave it at 35% saturation. Next step is to track our face. Navigate to the search bar and type in face refinement. Drag face refinement on to the node and click Analyze. This will analyze the face from start to finish. Now that we're ready, we will reset to the eyes. We can zoom in ever so slightly. We're going to bring down the shine removal, then click on eye retouching. Change this to 0.1 to sharpen up the eyes. Increase brightness by 0.05. We will do 0.25 for the highlight, and then with lip retouching, we will just add a tiny bit of saturation back into the lips. And let's see before and after. Wonderful. You can really see those eyes sharpen up quite a bit. So let's move on to glow. This is how we get the beautiful bloomed image that you see in traditional film movies. Type in glow and drag it onto your clip. Drag shine threshold all the way down and change the composite type to soft light. Then navigate to your Luma keyer, change the high soft to 16 and the high to 60. We will then change the spread to 0.3. If we see before and after, we can see what this is doing to the image. To make this feel more natural, we'll change the global blend type to 0.5. Next is to lift up the image from the shadows. We'll click the top dot once more and stretch the highlights until our skin reaches 60% IRE. There we go. And now we have a lifted image. The next step is to add our favorite finishing LUTs. I have designed my own called the Cinema Pro series. Monterey, create a parallel node, clean up my node graph. I will use another LUT called Petra, and then I will change the blend so the total gain output equals 1. We will use 0.4, and then for this LUT, 0.6. Together, that equals a gain output of 1. We can then use grain to add some texture to our video. Traditional film grain presets vary. However, my favorite is the 35mm 400T. And then we will just take the texture down a tiny, and then the grain strength down a tiny bit. And that looks great. We'll add one node before the grain node and call this sharpen. We'll come over to our sharpen tool and take the sharpness to 0.47 and then increase our midtone detail to 15. And this will give us some sharpness, total definition in the eyes and the face and the little details of the image. The final thing we need to blend all of our changes together is a vignette. We'll take a vignette, increase our space so that we can work, invert our mask, and then we will click the top dot once more and bring down our image to have a vignette around the corners. And there we are. Let's right click and save our changes and call this master. Now we can change the looks if we enjoy other looks more. So in this case, let's use Statera, take the key output to 0.2, increase the key output to 0.8. Collectively, we have 1 together, and this will get us the image we're looking for. This will be available to all students of Videography Business Mastery. And that is how I color grade the Sony Log 3 footage.